welcome to this week's review of Halloween. Both of them. Now this video does contain spoilers to both movies. The one good thing about the remaking of Halloween is that it really made me appreciate the original a lot more. And once I saw the remake, or as they so cleverly called it, a reimagining of Halloween, and I don't know who they think they're kidding here. As long as it has a re in front of it, it's a remake, a rehashed, or regurgitated version of the movie Halloween. I believe if a movie's a very solid film, it shouldn't be remade. And what some people failed to understand in my original review of Halloween is they thought it was some sort of rip on Rob Zombie, and it wasn't. Let's try to put this in perspective. Let's take two of the most respected directors in the business, and really two legends in filmmaking, Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese. Now I truly believe that if either of them were to attempt a remake of, let's say, The Godfather, they would take some serious heat for attempting such a remake. And the point is that if any director attempts to remake a very respected movie, they will get the same criticism. It's not a director issue, it's a remake issue. I'm sure some people might get sucked into this whole gimmick of a reimagining of Halloween, to act like it's not just another lame attempt to cash in off of someone else's hard work and imagination, and then slapping a well-known label on it. To me, this is the equivalent of building a kit car of a Ferrari and then buying authentic emblem kit, putting on the hood, steering wheel, and rear end, and then trying to sell the car as if it was a real Ferrari. First, let's take a look at the similarities between the two movies. They both have basically the same cast of characters: Michael Myers, Dr. Loomis, Sheriff Brackett, and of course, Laurie Strode and her friends. In both movies, the strongest character with the best dialogue is Dr. Loomis. Donald Pleasence was the big-name actor they were lucky enough to land for this low-budget movie. And in the remake, this role was played by Malcolm McDowell of Clockwork Orange fame. And I personally think the casting for the first movie was better, even though the remake did have some very strong actors in key roles, including Brad Dourif, William Forsythe, Udo Kier, and Danny Trejo. Just because they're solid actors doesn't mean the casting was better. Some of the best cast movies introduce actors we've never heard of, but perform their roles beyond expectations. They both use basically the same mask in the movie, the famous William Shatner mask painted white, and they both have the same storyline. Little boy kills family member or members, then gets put in a mental institution, escapes, goes to his hometown, and begins to kill people. Even a decent amount of the sounds and music were the same. So as you can tell by now, there is a very significant amount that the remake borrows from the original. Now we have to discuss the differences between the two and figure out, is the new version different enough to truly warrant the remaking of a classic horror movie? Now let's take a look at the whole reason this movie was remade, besides for a quick buck. In the original movie, you see a young Michael Myers for all about 5 minutes, and he never says a word. You only see his face for about 10 to 15 seconds, and then bam, you fast forward 15 years, and there we are. Michael Myers escapes. So the whole idea for creating the remake was to show how he turned from an everyday child into this monster, the backstory. And in the original movie, it appears that Michael comes from a fairly normal household somewhere in middle America. And this leads to the fact that Michael Myers is just a bad seed. He came from a normal home from normal people, and he was just an evil person. As a student of Western Kentucky, John Carpenter went on a tour through a mental institution where he saw a boy that fit the mental description of Michael Myers. That was where the movie's most famous dialogue came from.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding, and even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up, because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
With the remake, we see a young Michael Myers in a totally different household. He's the offspring of true white trash and is abused by the father figure of the household, and he's ridiculed by the kids at school. So instead of him being the epitome of evil, just for the sake that he is evil, to kill for the sake of killing alone, now in the remake, he's killing because he's getting back at all the people that pushed him over the edge. To me, this was a serious turn for the worse. In the original, the whole thing was he was someone unlike any other. And in the remake, he can be anyone. Everyone's been picked on before in one way or another, or at one time or another. It happens to all kids and it's part of childhood. And to me, this killed the mystique of Michael Myers. You see him talking and carrying on with his family members and classmates, and seeing him become the killer because he was picked on is nowhere near as scary or as eerie as someone killing just for the sake of seeing you die, for no reason at all. Some people may not know this, but another horror classic had some of its greatest moments by accident. Jaws was originally going to show the shark in the opening scene of the movie, but by sheer dumb luck and the need to keep the film's production moving along, they decided not to show the shark at all and just leave it to your imagination. In Jaws, this is done by accident and out of necessity, but in the original Halloween, it was scripted this way. So to me, this was the true brilliance of the original movie, showing enough to scare you or creep you out, but leaving enough to the imagination so each person can have a slightly different experience watching a movie. The other huge problem with the remake is, if you've seen the original movie, once Michael Myers escapes from the mental institution, you begin to lose interest very fast. I know I did. And sure, the remake did have some subtle differences, but nothing to really make me want to sit there, basically seeing the same thing over again. And by the last half hour, I was just hoping it ends so I can go home. That became very tiresome for the last 2/3 of the movie. Also, I think having him become some sort of huge monster was a big mistake. I think if you were wiry or emaciated, this would have been even more creepy. In the first movie, Michael Myers was about 5'10", 180 pounds. And just because in the new one he's bigger, doesn't make him scarier. Take a look at one of the best sequels of all time, Terminator 2. James Cameron made one of the best creative decisions ever by making the T-1000 a trimmed-down, sleeker version of a Terminator. Had the sequel been in the hands of an amateur, they'd have most likely made the other Terminator someone who was bigger or as big as Arnold. That was the whole key to the success of Terminator 2. They went ultra-modern as opposed to having two big bulky cyborg men duking it out. The ending of the remake of Halloween was fairly uneventful. In this one, Michael Myers kills Dr. Loomis, and then Laurie shoots Michael in the head, screaming Texas Chainsaw Massacre style. And on a positive note, at least they seem like the end of the movie without preparing us for a sequel. In my opinion, the true genius of a great horror film is to find a way to scare your audience without relying too heavily on sheer gore or loud noises for cheap thrills. I can just walk down the street with an air horn and blow behind people's heads and watch them jump a foot. But does that mean it's scary? No. It just means they weren't expecting it. And if you notice, the original Halloween, there were sounds in the movie, but they were never overbearing. They were very subtle and creepy. And this is the mark of a truly talented director that sets the mood, as opposed to just shouting in your ear or making an overly gory movie to make up for the lack of suspense. Some people thought I was too hard on the remake, so this video is to go into greater detail as to why I didn't like the remake, and also, because my reviews never contain spoilers, I couldn't go into any real specific details of why I liked or didn't like the movie. And in my original review, I asked the question why. Why was this movie remade? I knew exactly why it was remade. Money. Plain and simple. And I truly felt like after watching the remake that it definitely didn't add enough to the story to warrant it, and what was new didn't enhance the story. To me, it hindered it. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that will disagree with me, but the original Halloween is considered by many to be one of the landmark horror films to be made in the last 50 years, and I highly doubt the remake will have anywhere near that legacy. But let's see what you think. Post your vote below on which Halloween you like more, the original or the remake.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
Post your comments below on what you thought of this movie. If you'd like to rate and review a movie, you can do so at www.yourmovieratings.com. At this site, you can upload a video review or even a text review of any movie ever made. If you subscribe to my channel, you'll be notified immediately when my latest movie review is uploaded. Also, if you'd like to see some of the latest info regarding my channel, then check out my website at MrBlacksReviews.com. And if you made a cool video, or you want to share your YouTube channel with other members, then post them in the YouTube section. These forums are dedicated to everything from new movie releases to your very own YouTube channel. And don't forget, I'll be giving away DVDs at the forums, including the following titles: Transformers, Harry Potter, The Simpsons, Hot Fuzz, and 4 DVDs of the movie 300. So join the forums for a chance to win any one of these DVDs. And finally, if you want to see my list of upcoming movie reviews, then just go to my forums and click on the calendar. This has all the movies that I'll be reviewing in the future. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again next week.